Okay, friends, I wanted to do something a little fun today. I have been reading a summer reading book, and we just had this fun little idea that when I would go through it, I would point out things that stood out to me or advice that I wanted to share with Sean, and we could talk about it with you as well. So this is going to be almost like a little book club, a virtual book club, if you will.
I didn't read the book.
Yeah, it was supposed to be both of us, and he just straight up didn't do his, so I did it for the both of us.
I didn't read it.
Yeah, no, you didn't. Anywho, this book is called A Higher Calling, and it's written by Rachel and Harold Earls, who are actually big YouTubers. They're my favorite YouTubers that I've been watching for a really long time, and it's funny because we had been planning to do this video, but I didn't realize they just went on a social media break, like a YouTube break.
Oh.
And those of you that know, when you watch YouTubers pretty consistently and religiously, you feel like you know them, you feel like you're a part of their family or whatever. You look forward to the news that they're going to share. So it kind of is good timing because I was not seeing their videos, but I was reading their words, so it still felt like I was like catching up with them. Anywho, so let's go through. I did it chronological order, just I know like page numbers or anything.
Okay.
I just wrote things down that I liked. So the first bullet point I did, I said they were talking about actually liking each other's company and not being distracted by the phone. And then I wrote, we could work on bedtime, just talking till we fall asleep and not both saying goodnight and then playing on our phones. Which, it's not all the time that we do this, but again, I'm sure there's couples out there that can relate. Sometimes we say goodnight, mwah, whatever, and then we both go, and it's almost like a decompressing thing to be on our phones, but like, why? You know, I was reading this in dog hair.
Nice, good.
I was reading this and I was just like, yeah, like we like each other. Obviously, we've been best friends for a long time. We've been married for a few years. Like, it's like, why do we feel the need to sometimes say goodnight and then be on our phones?
Yeah, I guess it's just kind of like I think it's sort of like just an issue all around. It's actually kind of interesting because I just did one of my warm-ups. We did a Wellness Wednesday for my English class. And it was actually talking about phones and how just we're so addicted to them because you can just keep scrolling and keep scrolling and you just get unlimited content. So it is really true just how kind of addicted we are to our phones. Like, I'm probably looking up sports stuff like before going to bed. Like, but I could, it could be us enjoying each other's company or us reading and maybe talking about the book before going to bed. No, I think that's a great kind of habit to try to change because one just connects you to your partner even more.
Yeah, and I think that couples that have been together for a long time, I feel like sometimes you get so comfortable with that person that it's, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we've been together for like 8 years, so it's,
yeah,
it's a while.
It is, but it doesn't mean we should just like stop communicating and stop whatever,
Exactly.
Like yeah. So I wrote that down because I was like, yeah.
That's good. Just a good little reminder. I like that.
They wrote, sometimes we have the expectation that when we talk to God, He will respond immediately the way we text with family and friends, but that's not how it works. I thought that was really interesting because I know I'm like guilty of that for sure in several instances where it's like you pray and then you expect some sign or some answer immediately. But it's like sometimes things that you've prayed about are answered years down the line.
Yeah.
So I think that expectation of like God, like it's almost like an entitlement, almost like I'm entitled to God responding to me immediately.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of just, I guess it kind of even goes back to the phone thing as well. Because we get that instant gratification on your phone. Like, I want content. Here's content, right? That's kind of, what this time in our lives, like this period of time, like 2020s, and especially with COVID, like we are always on our phones, always looking for that instant gratification. I see it, across the board throughout all ages, honestly.
Yeah.
But that's, spiritually wise, that's so true. I'm guilty of that. Of just like, why didn't it happen? I prayed for this specific thing and there was a time crunch on it and it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But maybe that wasn't supposed to happen for me. And God has a different plan for me.
Right.
So I like that.
I liked that one too.
Yeah.
This I quoted. This was like straight up out of the book. Some of the things I like paraphrased or just the idea, but this is an
Is it
actual
an
quote.
MLA? Did you cite it in MLA?
Bro, what?
Sorry, Teacher Rain.
So this one, it was a quote: "Being intentional about love," and then why did I quote it like this? Weird. Being intentional about love, and then actions make words meaningful. So I quoted this because I do feel like people can say things, relationships, friendships, family members, people can say things, but unless the action backs it up,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of just like, did you actually mean it?
Yeah,
like,
it's the old phrase, actions speak louder than words.
yeah.
Like you can apply that really to anything, any kind of relationship. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that.
This says, I wrote, "If you take the first step and nothing happens, then keep going. It's easier to take step 2 because at least you know where not to step." I think in the book Harold said that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you take the first step and nothing happens, then keep going. It's easier to take step 2 because at least you know where not to step.
Yeah.
I was like, that's pretty cool because I'm always afraid to take step 1, and it's like, what's the worst that can happen? Like, it doesn't happen. Okay, so take step 2. Well, don't step back there because that didn't work.
Yeah, we know for a fact that didn't work.
Right. So
Yeah.
I just thought that was kind of a cool thing he said, because there's no need to be scared about like the next steps or
Making mistakes.
make it. Yeah, there's
Learn
no
from the
need-
mistakes,
Right.
of course, but
Right.
you're gonna make mistakes, and yeah, that's really nice. I like that.
Yeah.
That's like some fire.
I know. This one is actually a Maya Angelou quote that
Love Maya Angelou.
I know that they had written in the book. But Maya Angelou quote: "Success is liking yourself, liking what you do, and liking how you do it." I thought that was cool because I'm like, there's so many people have a lot of ideas and opinions of what success looks like, but it's like, okay, you might be successful in a job, but are you successful in your family? Or are you
Mhm.
successful in love, but maybe you're successful in, like something else? It's like,
Yeah.
So I just thought that was kind of cool. Like, first and foremost, success is liking yourself. Like, if you like yourself, I think you're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, liking what you do and liking how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter if it's like a big scale thing or a small scale thing. It's just, are you proud of who you are when you're doing something?
I think it's important to have, you said like, whether it's like a larger scale. Sorry, you can see us trying to appease Ginger right now.
I know.
I feel like that's important because whether it's something small or something big, like those little wins, they add up. So be happy about those wins. Be, appreciate those wins because they do add up to maybe even a bigger win, and that, lead up to achieving that big win that maybe you've been missing for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and you said I like that after everything.
I like that. I think I'd like this book. Maybe you'll read it.
Wow. Okay.
Physical book.
You're like, yeah, I like that.
Yeah. What is that? You like that, Kirk Cousins.
What?
Yeah, Kirk Cousins. You like that.
Okay. Okay, this next one, Rachel said this. What I perceived as failure was just a turn in direction. I loved this because I feel like I struggle with feeling like I failed in certain areas,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm continuing to fail in certain areas, and it's like, no, you might perceive it as a failure, but it's actually just a redirection of like where you're supposed to go or what was meant to happen, you know? So don't be so hard on yourselves.
Yeah. Ginger said that too.
Yeah. Don't do it. Okay. Next one. Harold said Rachel showed him life is about serving rather than getting, doing rather than having, and being rather than wanting.
Yeah.
You want me to read that again?
Yeah, say it one more time. Because Ginger also distracted me.
Life is about serving rather than getting, doing rather than having, and being rather than wanting.
So being, you know, appreciating where you're at, always serving others, like being proactive, I guess. I like that. That's nice. I said that so.
You like that?
I said that like, and as it left my mouth, I was like, don't say that. You've said that already.
Wow. Yeah, I just thought that was good advice. This bullet point I said, this is a long one. When talking about their first apartment situation and how everything they built was truly from the ground up, Rachel said, I've learned that generosity produces joy on all fronts. There is joy in giving, knowing you're helping someone. Joy is also felt when you're on the receiving end, knowing someone cares enough about you to help. I thought that was really cool because I think people normally see it like a one-track thing. It's like, oh, I want to give in this situation because it'll make me feel good about myself. I did a good deed, whatever. Or on the flip side, oh, I need someone to help me. I'm struggling. Like, thank you so much for giving to me and caring for me enough to give to me. So it's like, it can actually be the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, like you can have joy in helping others and have joy in receiving help from others.
It's so true.
Do you like that?
I'm not gonna say it.
Okay.
I'll bite my tongue.
Cool. Yeah, I thought that was cool. Oh, here I am. This one, they call themselves Team Hungry and encourage couples to make a team name to help with tougher times. I wrote, what would our team name be?
Shally?
That's like a couple name.
Oh.
It's like they say Team Hungry because they're hungry for like
hungry all the time. She keeps hitting the
Ginge. Did I stump you?
Hey, let me just pick her up. What would our team name be?
They were saying in the book that like if they fought or something and then somebody like said something about like their team name, like it would maybe make somebody laugh, or like it was kind of almost like an icebreaker type of vibe.
Okay.
But
I don't know, I'm kind of blanking out. So if it's like kind of along those lines, team. I don't know, what do you think?
Team fake it till you make it.
Team fake it till you make it?
We're just trying to chug it along.
We're just doing it.
I don't know. We'd have to think about that one.
Yeah, definitely.
But I thought that was kind of fun. And if you're a couple watching this, what would your team name be?
Put it down in the comments. Let's see.
This was a quote. Often people see only the victory at the end. What they don't see is all the hard work, risks, late nights, struggles, failures, persistence, doubts, discipline, courage, criticism, disappointments, adversity, tears, rejections, sacrifices, and changes along the way. Next time you find yourself comparing someone else's victory with where you are, remember it was a long road for that person and you may just be starting yours. I loved that because comparison is so
detrimental. It's so
detrimental, and especially on social media, there's always comparison.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Always. This person got more likes. This person commented on their post. Like or I wish I could afford what that girl's wearing. Like, there's always comparison
100%.
on every level. And it's like, that person put a lot of work and had nose, and like, that person went through a personal journey to get where they are. So it's like, for us or anybody, don't compare, because you might just be starting your personal journey to get to where you're supposed to go.
100%.
And I think that there's always going to be journeys throughout your life, so you're always going to be starting something.
Cut yourself some slack.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easier said than done, but we don't cut ourselves some slack. Like, whenever things happen, bad things happen, but try to cut yourself some slack. Try to practice, giving yourself some grace with it. Pray about it, and it'll come around.
Yeah. This one was a quote: "Never reach out to someone just when you need something from them." Then I wrote, "Is this how we approach our relationship with God?"
I think a lot of people do, and I'm guilty of it. Like, they always say just like pray every day, like pray for people, always have, it could be little things like talking with God, but like when it's just kind of like when your relationship with God is transactional, then that's not a relationship. No, like even just a regular relationship isn't transactional. It's not like, oh, I give you this, so you give me this. No, it's a give and take.
I was gonna say, like, think about it. Genuinely think about it. When you pray, are you praying for things you want, or do you ever approach your prayer from a place of like thanksgiving?
Yeah. Sometimes we all need to do a little bit more of that. I know I do.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so guilty of it, but it's important to be self-aware and to try to work on that deliberately.
Right, and there's no judgment in it. Like, every
No.
single one of us is guilty of it, but it's like, even in physical relationships, like, don't reach out to your friends just when it's convenient for you or you need something from them. Because is that an actual friend?
Yeah.
It trickles down the whole line. This one says, Rachel wrote in her journal that maybe she needs to look at the time away from Harold as quality time to have with God. This one stood out to me because I'm super guilty of, like, when you're away, whether it's work or on a vacation without me, or like at a family thing without, like, any example that you can name, I sometimes struggle with feeling like either really bored or unmotivated, or like I'm sad, or like, I feel all these things, but it's like that could be quality golden time with God.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm guilty of that too.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. That's why I wrote it down. All right, this is a big one. Harold talks about how communicating is not yelling at someone and assuming the message in its entirety has been understood. That's talking at someone. Quote, communication requires taking the time to confirm that both sides are in sync with each other. I wrote, I like this because I believe in relationships there is no harm in overly communicating and making sure you and the other person are both understood and validated, not just one-sided.
Yeah, I mean, especially in a marriage.
Yeah.
It's better to over-communicate than under-communicate.
But it's great. Like, I can think of a million examples of people talking at somebody.
Yeah. They're not actually listening to what the other person's saying. They're like, I'm just waiting until you're done so that I can say.
Right. And that's the other thing.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're not actually listening to what somebody else is saying, then that's not communicating.
Yeah.
Like, plain and simple.
Active listening. That's what you need to do.
Right.
Yeah.
But I just think it is important, like, it's listening to each other, voicing both of your feelings, thoughts, opinions, whatever, and then coming to a solid ground where you're both understood clearly of what the whole conversation was.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing in communication. So often people miss a portion of something or twist a word or, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, make sure you actually know what the other person was saying. And if you don't, ask them, what do you mean by that? You know?
Mm-hmm.
This one is, the mission was to bring awareness to soldiers dealing with PTSD, which, by the way, the Harold Earls, he summited Mount Everest, and it was to bring awareness for soldiers that deal with PTSD and like the suicide rate in our vets and whatnot. So anyway, this says, the mission was to bring awareness to soldiers dealing with PTSD, but towards the end of the book, I didn't realize until Rachel talked about it, but spouses and families also deal with a fear and concern of PTSD, and there's no awareness on the effects of the family members. I wrote this down because when I was reading this, it was like an eye-opener for me. I was like, yeah, like there's little awareness, I believe, about PTSD in the military community, but also like I've never heard of somebody talking about like the effects it has on like a spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was talking about how like, no, her husband doesn't actually have PTSD. Every time he would go away, she'd be living with that fear and anxiety of him getting that.
Mm-hmm.
And then what would that look like for their future and look like for their children and everything. Like the family members, parents, siblings, like these people also deal with like a side effect of PTSD. It's not PTSD itself, but it's like fear and anxiety. We're almost done, friends. All right, so this one, we've got 3 more bullet points left. But this one is a quote. It says, start becoming the person you're looking for is looking for. And then I wrote, people often do this when dating, but then why would it stop after being married? There always has to be the effort on both ends to be the best you can be for you and for your spouse. So yeah, people I think have all these like expectations and standards and whatever for like who they're looking for, but it's like, if you actually self-reflect, do you match what you were looking for?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of an eye-opener too. And like, yeah, like if you have all these insane standards for somebody, like, do you actually meet them as well?
Mm-hmm.
And are you the type of person that person would want as well? Oh, I find this, and I've seen it, it's like somebody once said, I forget who it is, but somebody was like, how do I get a godly man? And it's like, well, first, are you being a godly woman?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, it's the same idea.
Yeah.
And I also said, like, yeah, in a marriage, stuff happens, life happens, financial struggles happen, kids happen, deaths happen, like so many things happen, and it's like that change you and alter you, but it's like, are you in a marriage, you're gonna work really hard to like get the person, and then once you're secured in that, you just stop trying to be the best version of yourself that your person wants, you know?
And probably that person fell in love with.
Right. Right, that person fell in love with this amazing version of you, and now that it's secure, you're just gonna let it go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think there's a lot of like things under that umbrella too, like fitness, you know?
Mm-hmm.
When you're in the dating game, you're trying to be healthy and blah blah blah, and then you get secure and then you're just not healthy.
Yeah.
Like, why? You know, there's so many things that could fit under that umbrella. I don't know, did you have any thoughts on that?
No, I completely align with what you're saying. I love what you're saying. I like that.
he loves what I was saying.
I love it. I changed it.
Amazing. Okay, this one says, Rachel was reminded after seeing Harold's spiritual growth that it isn't fair to put a timeline on someone's walk with God, so all we can do is pray for and encourage our partner. So this was talking about she like Harold was always like a faithful guy, whatever, has a relationship with God, but it was maybe not as far along as Rachel's was, which like stood out to me.
Definitely.
And then when he did the whole Everest thing, she thought that would be like the moment he'd come close to God, but it really wasn't until he was in ranger school after Everest even happened.
Oh.
So she was like, this was a solid reminder of like, one, you can't say like, oh, this particular date or this particular moment is going to be the changing moment for that person. Like, your walk with God is fully between you and God. So yeah, when you're marrying somebody, and if you're looking for a Christian and a godly person, like, that's definitely something that you're looking for and should have a baseline of. But even those that are really strong in their faith are still continuing their journey with God, and sometimes it might be high and sometimes it might be low. And you can't expect somebody's timeline with God to be what you think it should be. It's just so personal.
It's that was something I couldn't. I mean, in the beginning, I like was hard on myself.
The beginning of our relationship.
Yeah, when I was like, I need to have a better relationship, and I was like, and if I, when you slip up, you're like,
well,
super...
but I just want to preface though, when we started dating, like, you believed in God, but it was kind of just that, like, but I never like said to change.
No. But it was more of my personal.
The only thing I said to you was like, try to watch your language or whatever, just around my parents, just out of a respect thing. But besides that, I didn't ask you to change. Like, you wanted that relationship with God for you.
Yeah. So what I was saying, like, it's in the beginning of like, my spiritual journey, I was always like super, super hard on myself if I slipped up, because it would happen. So it's important to give grace and know that, like, if you're new to the faith and you're new of believing in God and and believing in Jesus, that you are like, if you're just like right at the beginning of it, like, you're a baby. Like, you need to grow. You need to grow in the faith. And like, I knew I was a spiritual little baby. I was a bald little baby that I needed to grow into the faith. And I'm still growing, and I think we all still grow. And I think that's important, to think like, to know that you're not perfect. We're not perfect. No one's perfect. There's only one person that was perfect that was on this earth, and that's Jesus. So it's important for us to, strive to be like Jesus, but we know that we'll never ever be perfect, but it's still something that you need to grow and strive for each day. And that's something, it took me a while to kind of give myself some grace, and just when things would happen, I just would pray about it and have a lot of self-reflection, meditate on it, and then grow from it. So that's something that's super important, that because it's happened to me, I guess, in the last 8 years or so, of my spiritual journey. So
the last bullet point that I wrote down was in the final chapter before the epilogue, she talked about her struggles with getting pregnant and the timing of everything. And I wrote, this one hit home for me. I had no idea, even though I've been watching them for a really long time, I had no idea that they had tried to have a family for a long time. And reading this chapter felt like God was just giving me another reminder that his timing is perfect and better than my own. And yeah, like, it's actually crazy. If you don't know what I'm talking about with our personal situation, go check out, I think it was like 2 videos ago or something.
We'll link it down below as well.
Sure, yeah, we'll link it down below. But the timing of starting a family, I didn't realize like how many people would have reached out to me with their own stories, and that I was like so thankful for, because it gave me more perspective and it made me feel like I wasn't alone in that or whatever. And then to see somebody who's like this big YouTube star and like she is a family vlogger and all these things, and to see that they kind of struggled, and they were talking about all the tracking apps and all the things, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like reading my own story.
Yeah.
But it's just cool, like nobody's alone in what you're going through. My dog,
she's so needy.
She is. She's like, you guys need to stop filming. Well, anyway, that was it. I wrote down mainly things that I thought were like incredible relationship advice / life advice. But there's a whole story behind this book, which I would highly recommend reading to see kind of their journey of meeting, growing, being apart, coming back together, all these things. It's a really, really good read. And I'm just happy that I like actually committed to reading a book. I'm not a big reader, but if you guys liked this, let me know, and we will, we can do more of these. And like I said, maybe do like a little random virtual book club up in here.
Up in here. Up in here.
Yep. So anyway, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. See you later.